Hi guys, a really quick intro today because I just sort of want to go straight into the video, but thank you for clicking on this video. This is episode 2 of the Yow Tip series. Today we will be focusing on the last 4 centers. So you've built your first 2 centers, you've built your first 3 cross edges or your 4th cross edge at this stage, and now you need to do your last 4 centers. So I'll be giving you some things to keep in mind, basically, some tips that you should think about when you do your last 4 centers. I'll go over some specific cases that you guys sent me that you find awkward to solve, and I'll show you how I solved them. And then at the end, I will go through 1 or 2 example solves, basically, of the last 4 centers, just so you can sort of see it in action, basically, and get a grasp for how I solve my last 4 centers. I will be doing this all with the white center and the white cross edges done. If you know me, I basically only do green, but I know a lot of my solvers are either white/yellow only or color neutral. So I'll be doing everything today on the white center, and I hope you enjoy the video. There are a number of things you want to keep in mind when you're doing your last 4 centers. There's a couple important ones that I'm just going to go over now. And the first one is you want to be able to build your centers in any direction. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, what I mean is when somebody is building their centers, usually what they'll do is they'll build the first center like this, and then they will go up. So they'll do the U center next, and then once they do that, they'll do the next center like so. What I mean by be able to build it in both directions is be able to go this way as well, because in a case like this, you can see the red center is actually a lot easier than the orange center. So once you do your blue center, it might be better to just go this way instead. And what being able to build your centers in either direction gives you the ability to do, it gives you the ability to pick and choose what center is better and then go with that. So to be able to do this, you need to be able to build your centers on both the bottom and the top. Most people are already able to do it on the bottom because that's more or less the standard way. When you do the top center, you're basically building it on the bottom. And what you need to be able to do as well is build it on the top. So you'd solve this center here, you'd solve the red center. You can see I'm not doing it on the usual bottom face. I'm doing it on the top like this. So you need to give yourself that advantage as well, because it will help you a lot when you're forming your centers. Just a little bit of an extension onto my last point is in regards to the last 2 centers. So the same way that I say be able to build it on either the top or the bottom, you need to be able to do your last 2 centers on either the top one or the front one. So be able to solve, say I have green front, red top, be able to solve the red center as opposed to the green center as part of your last 2. Most people would just go with the front face, but you can see in a case like this, it might actually be a little bit better to go with the red because there's a 2x2 here and a 2x1 here. So that's just a little bit of an extension to keep in mind. Be able to build your last center on the top face as well as the front. So the next thing you need to be able to do is slice moves. This is not something that you're going to be able to get around. It's just something that comes with Yow. Just naturally, you're going to need to do a lot of slice moves when you do your last 4 centers. A lot of people say you need to turn this inner slice here. A lot of people will go like this, which is 2 moves. But instead you can reduce that to just 1 by I use my ring finger on my left hand. And basically I just grip it normally, and you can see I just use my ring finger to sort of push it up like this. So I can do slice moves like that pretty easily instead of doing the 2 moves. When I am doing the slice move in the opposite direction, I would actually do the 2 moves. But it is, if you practice a lot, you can see it does become fairly easy, and it's not much worse than just doing that, which is what you do in Redux all the time. Another thing you can use to your advantage is sort of double slice moves as such, and what I mean by that is slicing both the inner 2 here like this. So the same principle again, using the same finger, gripping it in the same way. Instead of just doing one flick, you sort of bring your finger over a little bit and then flick it like this. So sort of like put it in the middle of the two pieces here and then just flick up. And then again, for bringing it down, I would just probably do the two moves there. But like I said, with enough practice, it will become second nature to you. Same for 6x6 and 7x7. When you are doing slice moves on this, it does become a little bit trickier, but with enough practice, you will get good at it, I promise. And it's just gripping it the same way, finger up like this. And all you can really do is practice with this one. On 6 and 7, you might need to use 3 layers sometimes. So the inner 3 layers here, it's the same sort of concept though. Just put your finger in sort of like the middle, or maybe grasp it all the way over to the furthest edge away, and then that should bring up all of them. And then same for 7x7, sometimes you might need to use 4. And then sometimes the layer will come out, but you can see once it's fine. So this is something that you're just going to need to practice. It's also not something that you can get around. Slice moves is just something that comes with Yao, and all you can really do is practice it and perfect it, and that's how you're going to get good at it. I also wanted to give a brief mention to half centers. Obviously a lot of people ask me about them. What I would say is they are a very useful tool to have at your disposal. Whether you want to do half centers all the time, or maybe not all the time, but as your default way of doing centers, then that's up to you. If that works best for you, that's good. But the one thing that I would recommend to every Yao solver is be capable of both doing half centers and one center at a time. So depending on whatever case you have, sometimes half centers will be the better option, and you should go with that. I do that all the time as well, in official solves, at home, wherever it may be. Sometimes half centers can just be better, and so if it is better in that case, then do it. But also, if you prefer half centers as your default, be capable of doing one center at a time, because in some cases, one center at a time would just be more beneficial. Basically, like there'd be a really easy center to set up, and it's just probably, I don't know, it's probably take less moves. So like I said, half centers can be a very useful tool to have at your disposal, and whether you choose to do it as your default or not is up to you, but just be capable of doing everything basically. One center at a time or half centers, it's basically up to you. Just be capable of doing both. I asked you guys to send me some awkward cases in the last video I done, and you sent me some awkward cases, so I was just gonna go over one, or at least ones that you guys find tricky, or that have some easy solutions. So one of the ones that requested was a case like this. So you can see you have a 2x2 here with this, but you also have this sort of center here. So you sort of have a 1x3 next to a 1x2. And how I do this is, obviously we need to try and find how do we get this last center in. So for example, something like this, what I do is I basically pair these two up into a 1x2 and then finish it paired up with the 2x2 to create a 2x3. And the way I do this is I do a trigger. So for a case like this, I can do this, which causes this 2x2 and this 2x1, and then I do another trigger. So really fast, that goes like this. The same for the other way. You can see it's sort of like the reverse, and it's just basically the opposite U move basically. But you can see you can do 2 triggers, and that puts the last centerpiece in there. Also another case where it's a 1x3 next to a 1x2. In this case, the outer bar is the one that's the 1x2, so we need to find a corner centerpiece. And the way you do this is I would pair this centerpiece up with this one to create a 1x2, and then pair this 1x2 up to this 2x2. So at full speed, it's like this. I was also sent this case, which you can see with the blue center here. We have a 1x3, and then we have 2 sort of adjacent corner centerpieces. And what I do with this is I would bring this one up to here to create a T case. And the way I do it is I would do the slice move that I was saying, so the double slice like this, and then U prime, and then OR, and then that will create the T case. And then you can find another edge center to pair up with this to finish the 2x3. Another case some people found sort of awkward is, say you're trying to put a center together, and you have a lot of corner center pieces but not very many edge center pieces. And what you need to do here is find more edge center pieces and just match them up with the free center edges. So for example, here's one here, so I'd match it up like this and create a 2x2, and then I would find another center edge to match up with this, such as here, to create a 2x3 like this. So if you encounter a case where there's basically a lot of corner center pieces but not very many edge pieces, I would recommend doing 1x2s instead of trying to create bars, because it can be quite tricky to create bars in that sort of scenario. So just build the center up 1x2 at a time until you get to a 2x3, and then you can finish with your last bar. And that applies for 6x6 and 7x7 as well. So a 6x6 case that I was sent that people felt was awkward is if you're doing the last bar of a center, and say you have like 3 of this here and you need to try and get this one to here. Basically what I would do to put this last bar in is I would sort of cancel into a commutator. So a commutator is obviously when you switch 2 center pieces on opposite centers using one alg. And how I would do this specific case is I would do it like this. That's how I'd solve that specific case there. Here was another one where again you have 3 center pieces done. This is for one of the inner bars now instead of an outer one. So you have 3 pieces here and you need to get your last inner center piece there attached to that. What I would do here is I would actually put this inner center piece here into the red face you're trying to solve like this, and then what you can do is you can bring this across and pair it up with the empty slot there and put it in. So fast it looks like this. So if you guys have any cases specifically, any more cases that you find awkward and that you don't know how to solve, whether it be on 5x5, 6x6 or 7x7, just DM me a pic of it on Instagram and I'll send you something back basically telling you how I would solve that specific case. Also, another piece of advice I would give you is just basically experiment yourself and do slow solves and just figure out certain cases. Obviously with centers, it's a lot more intuitive than 3x3. You know, if you get a case on 3x3 on last layer or F12, you can just learn an alg for it. It's not really like that on 5x5 or any other big cube. It's all intuitive. So I would recommend you just slow solve, you sort of experiment and find out like good ways to solve a case. So like for example today when I was making this video, I came across this case for the last 2 centers, which obviously I've been doing this for almost 9 years now, and the way I would usually do this is I would do mu to m2 like this, and then I would put in the last bar like that. But when I was sort of looking around for this video, I actually realized one of my own pieces of advice. I think I was saying something about commutators, and I realized I can actually cancel into a commutator for this, and I realized an easier way to do this is this instead. And like this is something that I've been doing for 9 years, and today when I was just sort of experimenting and trying to find something, I found that, and that's obviously a lot better than what I used to do. So just use that piece of advice and just experiment basically and find good cases, and you will come across good stuff as well. Alright then, so now I'm going to do some example solves, maybe just 1 or 2, just to show you guys what I do during an actual last 4 centers case. So I'll just get it right into it. Here I would go for orange. So you can see we have this sort of like 3 bar here with this corner here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this edge to make a T case with what we have here. So what I can just do is I can bring this up, bring this across, then I can bring this centerpiece back up, and that creates my T case. Now I want the middle bar to go along the E slice like this, and now I'll find another edge to replace this bar here, which I can see right here. So I just bring it over, bring it down to pair up this bar, and then I can pair this bar back up now. So here I can see I would probably do this right here and put the two orange bars we have on the bottom, and I would find a way to pair up these two orange with this one. The way I'd preferably do this is I'd put these two orange here, and what I can do is I can do this trigger, and that makes the bar. So again, really quickly, so it's super quick, and it prevents you from needing to do this, which I think would be a lot slower. Okay, so next I would go with green. So obviously I have this 1x2 here, and you can see I have this sort of cluster of centerpieces. What I would do here is you have two options. I would pair this edge piece up with this, and then insert the remaining bar here, or I could put this 1x2 here and then finish off the other 1x2. I'm gonna go with the second option, which is the 1x2s. So I'm gonna bring this 1x2 over to here. How I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna flick these two center M slices up like this, and then I'm gonna do U, and then I'm gonna do OR and OR4 wide prime. Then I'm going to insert this last 1x2 into this here, and same thing again. I'm going to do the M slice here, or the two M slices, and then like this. And now I'm going to put these two green bars on the bottom like this. Now as soon as I done that, I realized one thing that I should have done is I should have sort of repositioned this centerpiece here, because obviously I want to pair it up with these this 1x2 here. So I'm just going to do, make sure I don't mess up my cross edges, I'm just going to do this. And now what I can do is to put it here, I can do OR U, or U2, or 2, and then that's going to finish the green center. What I'm going to do with the last two center cases, I think the best option would be to go with blue, because you can see we have this T case here. So we'll just put the middle bar along this slice here, and then I'm going to use this edge to kick out this 1x3 like this. And now to form our last blue bar, I'll pair this center piece up with this, and in doing so we'll also make the bar completely. So you can see I'm going to do OR Y3 U2, and then I'm going to slice this M layer here. I'm going to move this to this here, and then I'm going to insert it like this, and then that'll be the last four centers finished. Okay, so I'll try and go a bit quicker this time. From what I have here, probably green is the best option, because you can see we have this cluster of centers here. So the way I would break this up is I would see this 1x2 and this 1x2. So I'll try and find another 1x2 so we can sort of make this 2x3. And just so happens in the back here, we can see there's a 1x2. So what we're going to do is, obviously we need to reposition our cross edges. I'm going to line it up like this. So I'll do OR2, U2, OR2. That makes the 2x3. And then looking for the last couple centers. So we can see we have these two green center pieces here. So we just need to find the last middle one, which is right here. So to line it up, we just need to make sure we don't mess up our cross edges. And then we'd pair it up like this. And then finish the green center. Now for this red center, the way I would do it is I would find a center piece to put here so we can make another T case. I have a couple of options here, obviously. The rest of the center corners are here. I'm going to use this one here. So I'm going to make sure I line this cluster of centers here properly, and I'm going to pair this one up to put it here to make the T case. Now I do OR U OR prime, and now I'm going to put this back in this layer like this and find the remaining edge to put here, which is right here. So all I need to do here to keep the red on the bottom is OR 3 2 U prime OR 3 2, and then that pairs all of them up. Now what I have here is actually a pretty interesting case. Even though I'm doing red at the moment, I think the best call here would probably to actually do the blue center, because you can see we have a 2x2 here, a 1x2 here, and a 1x3 here. So the way I would do this is I would pair this 1x2 up with these two like this to create a 2x3, and then obviously the last bar is here, so I'm just going to line that up and do that. And now what I can do here is I can finish off the red center fairly easily by just doing OR2 U OR2. That pairs up the last center bar, and then I'll do U prime OR2 U2 OR2. So that was a pretty weird way of doing those last 4 centers, but like I said earlier, you do have to try and be a little bit flexible about how you do it. Obviously don't do what I just did there super often. Only if it was really a case that was as obvious as what I had there should you go for something like that. Most of the time you do want to build your centers adjacent to each other as opposed to opposites, but in that sort of a case it did line up perfectly, so you could see why I done it the way I did. So thank you all for watching the video today. Be sure to leave a comment just to give your thoughts on the video, see if there's ways that I can improve the sort of tips that I give. The next episode will be on the last cross edge, so the last cross edge will be getting its own video, and if you guys have any awkward cases with the last cross edge that you don't really know how to solve efficiently, again just DM me on Insta, and I will be sure to include it in the video like I did today. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you for that video on the last cross edge.